In this video, we will be talking about root rot. Now, root rot is one of the most difficult type of rot, of course, because the roots are beneath the soil, so this rot is not visible. Stem rot, crown rot can be easily visible with the dark coloration on the stem or on the crown area that indicates that the succulent is getting rotted. However, there are certain signs that the succulent is going to give you when it is having a root rot, and that's what we are going to be talking in this video. Hi guys, welcome to my channel Lush Gardener. In this video, we are going to be talking about how to indicate that your succulent is having a root rot. I have already made a video on how to treat the root rot. I will put that link in the description below. You can check it out. Now, the first and the most important thing, as I've already said this and I've spoken about this multiple times in my video, is that you have to do a routine check once in 2 weeks or once in 3 weeks. Now, for example, the succulent in front of you, you can see the succulent is very healthy. It has a good compact look because it is being offered a good amount of morning direct sunlight for 5 to 6 hours. There are no wrinkles present on the leaves because it gets balanced watering. Everything looks perfect. So when you tend to look or when you tend to visually inspect your succulent, these are the things that you need to check. Whether there are any wrinkles on the leaves, whether there is any stretching happening, whether there are any bugs. This is something that should be in your routine check. You do not need to literally sit and stare at the succulent. Just an overall glance will give you a quick idea of how your succulent is doing. Now, talking about the root rot, now initially it starts wherein there could be a couple of reasons. It could be either your soil is not correct, it's very compact and it has suffocated the roots. It can also be due to excess moisture in the soil, can lead to root rot, or it can be environmental factors. Now, we are not very sure about environmental factors. Probably the succulent is not able to adjust in the new environment, and that's why it's not able to put out roots. There could be ample amount of causes, but these are very rare. Root rot is very rare with environmental changes. It usually happens either with compact soil or with overwatering. When I say overwatering, basically you are not letting your soil dry out completely before watering. That is when the chances of root rot is really high. So I will be putting up the image first of how the roots tend to look like if they are healthy, along with the comparison of how it looks when there is a root rot or when the roots are damaged. Now, this is how typically your healthy roots will look like. Now guys, I'm not telling you to pull out your succulents every now and then to check the roots. This is just an example because in case if there is some problem and you tend to pull out your succulent, you should be able to determine what are healthy roots and what are rotting roots. You will be able to see the images comparison video and the images. You will get a fair idea. That's the reason why I have pulled out the succulent to show you how the healthy roots tend to look like. So you can see the roots are light brown in color, and if you see at the end of the roots, there is more hair-like roots, which are the new growth of roots. This indicates that the succulent is very healthy. The roots are very healthy. They are going to have very small, fine hair-like roots at the tip of every large root. This indicates that these succulent roots are healthy. Now, these are side-by-side comparison images and the video. On the left-hand side, you can see the roots are very healthy. But on the right-hand side, you can see this is how the rot tends to look like. Now, I wouldn't say this is rot, but this is the initial stage of rot, wherein all of the new roots that are supposed to come out are absent because the original roots are not present. They are completely dried for whatever reason. This can either happen to a succulent that you already have for a couple of months or couple of years, or it can even happen to a newly purchased succulent. It is more common with a newly purchased succulent. Now, when this happens, when there are no roots present, we all know what's going to happen. The succulent will not be able to absorb any water, moisture from the soil. Every time you are going to water the soil or the growing media, the succulent is not able to absorb that water because the main purpose of the roots is to absorb nutrients and water from the soil. When the important part of the succulent is not present, how will the succulent get hydrated? So that's the reason why the succulent leaves will start to look wrinkled. They will start looking dehydrated. In most cases, the succulent, if it's an echeveria, the echeveria will start to close inwards. It is the sign of survival mode. It will look like the succulent is in its dormant stage. It will close completely. All of the rosette will close completely inwards. As you can see in this image, the succulent is fuller. It's open. There are no wrinkles present because the roots are healthy. Whenever I tend to water, the roots do their function. They work what they're supposed to do. They absorb that water and they pass it on to the leaves. If the roots are not present, that water, whatever water you're giving to the succulent, is not going to be absorbed by the succulent. Eventually, the succulent will start to lose the lower leaves, because when the succulent is getting dehydrated, the first source is, or the first sign is, that it starts getting wrinkles on the lower leaves. When the succulent knows that it's not going to get water, or there is some problem with the succulent, in order to survive, it gets into its survival mode, which is closing all of the leaves inward. That is a sign that there is some problem with the succulent and it is getting dehydrated. Now, in a normal scenario wherein you have forgotten to water the succulent for a longer period of time and the succulent is getting dehydrated, when you are going to water within 24 to 48 hours, if the roots are healthy, the succulent will definitely open up, because you had not watered, the roots were all fine, but as soon as it got water, the succulent will start to open up. But let's say that if your succulent does not open even after 3 days, 4 days of after doing a complete watering, always remember, when you have a dehydrated succulent, move the succulent to indirect bright light. Do not leave it in direct sunlight. Move it to indirect bright light and do a complete watering until the water starts passing through the drain hole. Only then, if the roots are healthy, within 24 to 48 hours, the succulent will start to open up. Depending upon how dehydrated the succulent is, it will take some time. If a succulent is very slightly dehydrated, it will completely open up. It will, all of the wrinkles will vanish from the leaves and it is going to look much more fuller. But if the roots are damaged, no matter how many ever times you are going to water the soil, the succulent will not open up. The wrinkles will not disappear. And then, because you are continuously watering it, the succulent is not absorbing that water because the roots are not functioning. That area will start to get rotted because of excess moisture. So you have to be extremely careful. Whenever you have a situation like this wherein your succulent is not opening up after doing 1 or 2 waterings, the next best thing is to take out the succulent from the soil and check your roots. Now, there are 2 things. Either your soil was not good enough, it was getting very compact, that could be one of the reason, or the roots are dead. So when you pull out the succulent from the soil, first and the most important thing, check if the soil is compact or not. Next thing you want to do is check the color of the roots, check if there is any new growth. If the roots are not black in color, if the soil was compact, you can just change the soil and put the succulent back. It is going to be all fine. But if you tend to see like the one that you're seeing in the image over here, if you tend to see that your roots are like this, you'll have to go ahead and cut off probably 5 or 6 centimeters above the root area and then let it air root. I will also put the link in the description below so you can know exactly where you have to cut. Just above the root area, probably 5 or 6 centimeters. You can just cut it off and then keep it for drying. You have to let it callus if you want. After it has calloused, you can either put it into the soil or you can let it air root. Now, unfortunately, or I would say fortunately, I do not have any root rod, so I definitely cannot show you and example of how root rot looks like, because I do not have root rot. One is because my soil is very loose, porous, well draining. I have a very healthy root system, so a lot of my succulents, even though I tend to underwater them, they tend to get wrinkles, but the moment I water them, after 24 hours, the wrinkles disappear. It gives me a good sign that the soil is good, it's loose, it's porous, and the roots are healthy. But in case if things don't change, the best option is to pull out the succulent from the soil and check for the root area. Most probably, the roots are going to look like how it's showing up in this image. So that's all about it. You have to do a routine check once in 2 weeks or once in 3 weeks. As I've said, majority of the time, the succulent themselves are going to give you signs about their well-being. So it's all about being very vigilant. So guys, I hope that this video was helpful to you. If it was, please hit the like button. If you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing to it. Until then, take care, stay safe and keep propagating.